Welcome to FRC Media News for Thursday, August 30th, 2018. I'm Keith Tebow. There's a lot of activity for local children as the public schools open this week in Fall River. Bristol Community College is also gearing up for its new academic year. And city residents will soon be able to visit the new Twin River Casino in Tiverton. We'll have those and other stories coming up, but first, let's check in with other news headlines of the week we bring in as we do each week. Will Richmond, the digital news editor at the Herald News. Will, welcome.
Hey Keith, good to see you again.
Same here. Keeping cool, I hope. This weather's been, again, end of the summer, but no relief in sight. Let's start with again another story that we've talked about quite often here on the program. That is the ongoing feud between the city of Fall River and Mayor Jazio Correa and what was formerly the Fall River Office of Economic Development. The city has sued FROED, formerly FROED, for over $100,000, suing them for back rent when the organization was housed at Government Center. FROED has since moved out. The litigation continues. A trial date, I believe, is set for March. But today, online at the Herald News, Joe Good has an article about some of the discovery in the case that's been out there for public consumption. And one of them has to do with former Mayor Will Flanagan. Fill us in, Will, on what former Mayor Flanagan may have to do with this.
Sure. So in the, as part of this process, it appears that the attorneys representing the former FROED are trying to line up, examples from past administrations to see what the sort of policy or trend was in terms of rent payments at Government Center. In that process, they went to previous mayors, including Sam Sutter and Will Flanagan, as well as the chief of staffs for both offices as well. And in this case, they received affidavits from Sutter and Sutter's chief of staff saying that there was no rent paid by FROED, and that and then there's a separate filing as well that indicates they attempted to get a similar affidavit from the former mayor Will Flanagan, and that at some point in the process, Flanagan, after initially saying he would sign such an affidavit, changed his mind and did not do so. FROED's attorneys are alleging that this is because Flanagan, in his current capacity as a representative of one of the companies seeking to locate a marijuana facility here in Fall River, that basically Flanagan changed his mind because there was pressure to get the license or the letter of non-opposition for the company to move forward with the marijuana facility, and that Flanagan may not have signed that affidavit in order to not put that letter in risk. And
that letter is coming from Mayor Jazio Correa, who of course is the mayor who had issues with FROED and actually forced FROED out of Government Center last year. Of course, the mayor's office is saying that this is, much ado about nothing, and that, has nothing to do with any other activity in city government other than that FROED, in their opinion, owes the city back rent.
Right, and it should be noted as well, there's nothing in the filings that we have seen to this point that says that pressure came from the mayor, from Jazio Correa's office or anything as well.
Right.
This is simply the allegation that is being put forward by the attorneys representing the former FROED. So certainly, there is some feeling out here, and we're a long ways from the trial on this matter as well. So, there could be a lot more filings and discovery sessions to come in this case in the next couple of months.
And it looks like the trial is set for March of next year. Is that correct?
Correct. So, plenty of time here for things to change and more filings to be made.
Absolutely. Well, coming up this Tuesday, believe it or not, Labor Day on Monday, the next day, Tuesday the 4th, is actually state primary day here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, where voters will be going to the polls to vote for candidates in either the Democratic or the Republican primary. And Joe Good this week had an article concerning how our local state legislative delegation has been doing, and those who are running against them, how they've been doing in terms of raising funds for the campaign. And as we noted before, out of the races for the 3 state representatives and Senator Michael Rodrigues, only one of those races is contested. That is State Representative Carol Fiola is facing a challenge against Republican David Steinhoff, who she has faced twice before in this race. But interesting to note that, as is probably the case across the country, the incumbents tend to have a fundraising edge as they head to the election.
Yeah, certainly, as you say, it's no surprise Carol Fiola is going into this election, and even, for the primary, she has no opponent as well.
Right.
Well ahead in money, over $100,000 raised and available. I don't believe she had an opponent in her election 2 years ago, so she's had plenty of time, plenty of fundraising cycles to continue to raise money. Most of her expenditures have gone to donations, which isn't uncommon for elected officials, especially when they are facing few opponents in their races. So she's had an opportunity to kind of stockpile cash in her account. David Steinhoff, the Republican in the race, he formally really got into this about a month ago or so with an eye towards the November election. So he has only started fundraising. He certainly, from it appears, been doing a lot of door knocking in his campaigns. Mm-hmm. So at this point, they're the only race at the local level to watch going towards November. But at the same time, you have Senator Mike Rodrigues, who is sitting on a pretty good campaign finance chest as well, and he's unopposed in this election. So there are some that will continue to add money to their campaign coffers with having very little to spend in the next couple months.
According to the article of the 4 members of the legislative delegation, Senator Rodrigues, who has expansive districts, not just the city of Fall River, a lot of the surrounding towns are also part of his district, has a campaign balance of over $200,000. Next in line would be Representative Paul Schmid, running unopposed this year. His campaign balance is over $150,000. You mentioned Representative Fiola, who has a campaign account balance of $110,000, and the other incumbent, Alan Sylvia, again running unopposed this year, has a campaign balance of just under $22,000. And you mentioned Dr. Steinhoff, who has a balance of just over $11,000. So it's almost $100,000 difference between the incumbent Representative Fiola and the challenger, Mr. Steinhoff. So it'll be interesting to see whether Dr. Steinhoff will be able to raise more funds before the election in November, and we'll see what happens. But again, Election Day this Tuesday. Please go out to vote. Again, not a lot on the local ballot this year, but there are races on the statewide level for U.S. Senator. 2 congressmen in Fall River are up for re-election this year, as are our state constitutional officers, Governor, Lieutenant Governor, Attorney General, Secretary of State. So a lot on the ballot, just not a lot here locally in Fall River. All right, Will, what's coming up over the next few days?
Sure, well, you mentioned it earlier, but we'll have full coverage of the opening of the new Tiverton Casino, which will be opening up on Saturday morning, as well as a look at what some of the businesses around the area are hoping that this will mean for them.
All right, have a good weekend. Enjoy the holiday. We'll see you next week.
All right, same to you, Keith. We'll see you next week.
We'll have more FRC Media News right after this.
Here are some job descriptions on the latest hot jobs list from the Fall River Career Center. Bilingual clinician. The Fernandez Center for Children and Families, located at 222 Milliken Boulevard, is looking for a full-time bilingual clinician to provide individual, group, and family therapy to children and families who have experienced trauma, physical abuse, neglect, and domestic violence. Job number 10928328. Representative Payee Assistant. Family Service Association, located at 101 Rock Street, seeks a full-time representative payee assistant responsible for bank reconciliations and reporting, client census, and compliance reporting and filing. Job number 10945779. Line cook. Barrett's Waterfront, located at 1082 Davall Street, is in need of a part-time line cook to set up and stock stations, prepare food for service, and cook menu items. Job number 1094-1757. The Fall River Public School Department, located at 417 Rock Street, is looking to fulfill the following full-time positions. Paraprofessional, job number 1090-8717. Elementary School STEM Teacher, job number 1094-1195. Special Education Teacher, job number 1093-1960. Health and Physical Education Teacher, job number 1094-9602. For more information on these or other positions, visit jobquest.detma.org or call the Fall River Career Center at 508-730-5000.
Even though it felt more like summer than fall, the Fall River Public Schools opened this week. Students at all elementary schools were greeted with high fives from local community members. School Superintendent Matthew Malone said the first day of school energizes staff toward the work it looks to accomplish this coming year.
The school committee has been outstanding in terms of supporting really the strategic initiatives of the system and really establishing a strategic plan focused on three things: people, places, and practices. So the first thing we're doing is investing in our human capital, hiring the best qualified teachers, supporting the teachers and administrators that we have. Two, investing in our facilities. We're building a brand new high school. I'm doing roofs and windows at Tansy and Watson. We have a couple other projects in place. And then finally, practices, focusing on literacy, numeracy, and social emotional learning in the classrooms. We have to raise student achievement, tear down walls and barriers of achievement gaps, and ensure that all our kids are prepared and ready for college and career.
As President Malone just mentioned, work is underway to build a new BMC Durfee High School at the current Ellsbury Street location. According to the city's Director of Buildings and Grounds, Ken Pacheco, work crews are digging up portions of the front parking lot, but no reduction in parking spaces are expected for students or staff this fall.
We've got some construction going on, some pavement happening in different areas. We're creating some parking areas since at some point we're going to lose the big parking lot to the new building. So we're starting to create different areas throughout the campus in order to alleviate some of the stress of a parking lot that holds 400 cars disappearing on us come December near the football field. So December 1 is the official date of the takeover of that parking lot, the big parking lot, and by then we'll have that parking duplicated elsewhere on the property.
It sounds like you're getting ahead of it. No disruption then?
We're trying not to have any break in the action. We're moving very quickly now. The contractor has been very good at getting us what we need to move forward. We've been, with the architect and the owner's project manager, making sure that they have everything they need. So, so far so good. We are moving at exactly where we want to be, and we need to keep this pace just because of the size of the project, and it's important for us to get in that building for September of 21.
Bristol Community College will get back to the classroom on Tuesday. President Dr. Laura Douglas begins her second full year as head of the institution. She says her first year was one of exploration.
I learned so much about the community, first of all. I started my Connect tour and visited with high schools and superintendents and colleges and universities in the area and business and industry and a lot of community organizations, and also spent a lot of time visiting with our employees at Bristol Community College as well. And I learned so much about what Bristol Community College does and the great impact that we have on the lives of so many students. You know, I just got out of a new student orientation, and met a new student and her mom. And her mom said, you know, I was a student here, and Bristol is what gave me my strong foundation. And that's the story that I hear over and over and over again. So I'm just so grateful to be a part of such a wonderful tradition of changing lives.
When it comes to the 2018-2019 academic year, Dr. Douglas hopes changes in interacting with students will lead to greater success.
I think we'll see a lot of changes in how we do our work on the student services side, the whole enrollment process, the orientation, the support services that we provide. We're launching a brand new early alert program, which allows us to identify students much earlier who might be struggling, as opposed to waiting until maybe midterm when they don't get the best of grades. So we are really excited about this because it helps us to get ahead of things and really helps us to serve students and support them earlier and provide the scaffolding that they need to be successful. So we have a much greater chance of retaining them and helping them get even more excited about Bristol Community College.
We'll have more FRC Media News right after this.
Welcome to Hot Dogs and Cool Cats. Today we have Raisin. She is a 10-year-old Chihuahua. She does have bad teeth. She doesn't have many in there, so we've just been giving her pate wet food. She does do good with that. And when we give her soft treats, I try to break up as little as possible so she could have a snack. She's very, very sweet. She likes to curl up in a blanket and get wrapped up. So come down and meet Raisin at Forever Paws. We are located on 300 Linwood Street, Fall River, Mass.
Welcome to Hot Dogs and Cool Cats. Today I'd like you to meet Orion. He is around 2 years old, domestic short hair, gray and white. Very calm cat. He wants to have another friend to play with, but he can't find any playmates in his room. He's a very confident cat, so he won't have a whole lot of issues in the home. He gets along well with others. He shouldn't get too much bigger than what he is right now. Unless he gets fat, of course. So come on down and meet Orion. He's waiting for you. We're located at 300 Linwood Street in Fall River. We're open every day, but Wednesday from 11 to 4 and major holidays. We look forward to meeting you. Orion looks forward to meeting you as well.
The Twin River Tiverton Casino opens its doors on Saturday. The facility held its official ribbon-cutting ceremony today. Fall River State Representative Alan Sylvia says even though the casino is located in Tiverton, it's extremely close enough for the city to reap some of its economic benefits.
It borders our district, and we want to be good neighbors with South Coast Marketplace opened, and now this casino. I think it's great for our community. South End obviously is booming. We have some concerns with traffic as we look at all these issues with the South End, but this is another great thing. It's an exciting time for us. So much activity in a short period of time, so I think it's great.
As we mentioned earlier, the state primary is coming up this Tuesday. Even though Governor Baker has received strong support as being an effective governor, he's facing a challenger in the Republican primary. Dr. Scott Lively, who ran as an independent in 2014, believes Governor Baker is leading more like a liberal than a conservative.
There are three primary constituencies that I'm appealing to, pro-life, the pro-Second Amendment, and the pro-Trump constituencies. And I'm doing very well with all three of them. And I think those three issues are really key to the separation between the conservatives and the liberals here in Massachusetts. I was born and raised in Shelburne Falls, 1957. I was born, and Massachusetts was a very different place in those days. It was family-centered. You know, the jails were empty, the churches were full, the factories were humming. You could live on one income. The kids were safe playing in the neighborhood. All that's changed because of liberalism. And we need to get back to solid conservative values, local control, small government, and only a conservative can bring that about. And only a conservative chief executive can bring that about. And that's why I'm running for governor and not some other seat.
Again, the primary election is this Tuesday with polls in Fall River opening at 7 a.m. and closing at 8 p.m. The Fall River Public Library has wrapped up its summer programs, including its summer reading event, as we hear in this story.
Children were here on a daily basis, checking out books, reading books, enjoying books, and also getting credit for reading their books on their summer reading logs. With this year's Summer Reading Club, Summer Reading Safari, sponsored by Rockland Trust.
Do the children pick any genre more than others?
Well, I can say that during Shark Week, we had an awful lot of shark books going out. We had over 24 on display, and shark books were just flying off the shelf. So I have to say, around Shark Week, sharks were the big item to circulate from the library. But on the whole, it's just a summer where children take out the things that they like to read, and not necessarily assignments from school, but they do have their summer reading that they do as well.
That'll do it for this edition of FRC Media News. You can catch FRC Media News Thursdays and Fridays at 6 p.m. and online at our website, frcmedianews.org. We'll leave you today with some highlights from last weekend's Fall River Grand Prix boat races held on our waterfront. For all of us here at FRC Media News, I'm Keith Tebow. Have a great Labor Day weekend. We'll see you next Thursday.